And here we are again at another episode of the Fierce and Fabulous Society talk show. And we come live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. But today's episode, I'm going to have to tell everybody, it's not live. Today's episode is actually been recorded because our guest today, like us all when we are in business, have got business to do. They have got clients to serve. And the main thing was about bringing their voices into this room. And I'm super excited to be able to do that. Now, before we get into the amazing conversation today, I'm just wanting to, you're going to hear me talking about this all the time, but talking about the Fierce and Fabulous Society Summit, Women in Business Growth Summit, that is happening from the 3rd to the 5th of November. And it's a lovely evening summit. So if you're thinking, I can't manage it, I'm really busy, or I've got the dinner to make, well, it's at 8 o'clock. So aim to get that in your diaries, get everything finished, and gift yourself some time. Give it as a gift to you for your own development, for your own wellness, because we have got 9 of the most incredible businesswomen showing up. And when I say incredible, it's not about being starstruck by it. Honestly, these women are so ordinary in so many ways. They are women who have faced adversity, faced the challenges, the real challenges of being a mother, a sister, a wife, to being able to still show up in business, of having imposter syndrome, fears, anxiety, stresses. But they've managed to keep pushing through them to go on to build 6 and multi-7-figure businesses. And they've agreed to come and share their time with us over 3 days to support you, whether you are just got a hustle thinking, I wonder if I could do this. Maybe you've started your business, you're starting to build it, or maybe you are doing really well and wanting to scale. It really doesn't matter. There will be learning for everyone over those 3 days. And when I was pulling this together, I thought, from my experience of attending summits, what has been the impact for me? And I know I have really learned some amazing things through some amazing events, but where did I always fall down? It was in the now what. A wee bit of the so what was the learning in it, but definitely the now what. It was the follow through. What does the learning that you have in these events actually mean if you don't put it into practice? And that's where there's something more to tell you about. So on the Sunday after the summit, we'll start a 5-day workshop live in the Fierce and Fabulous Society Facebook group. And we will be taking everything that you've learned, all the questions that you've asked, and supporting you to put your learning into practice in your business to help your 2021 finish amazingly, and for you to truly be ready for 2022, to be able to have a joyful life and a profitable, sustainable business. And it's not being in a reactive space doing it, because I don't know about you, but I've had lots of 1st of January when I've thought, goals? What goals? Well, we're not having any of that this year. This is your chance to actually get ahead of the game. And you'll be hearing more about that over the coming weeks. But super, super excited. But back to today, and who do we have coming in to join you? Well, this is my first time ever when I have 2 guests coming in at the same time. So it's challenged my technical ability in making sure that everything works before they come on. But I am really honoured to have, and I'm not just saying it because it's a good thing to say that they're amazing coaches, but they are amazing coaches. And I have had the experience of having incredible coaching conversations with them. And as someone who is also an experienced coach over a number of years, you know a good one when you see one. And these 2 ladies are quite incredible. Tonight we're going to bring you Joe Wheatley and Zoe Hawkins, who are the founders of In Good Company, and that is definitely a name to write down. And they provide accredited coaching qualifications, coaching supervision, and CPD for aspiring and practicing coaches. And what's lovely is that their philosophy is all about, that's what it says on the tin, being in good company. And that means being in good company with yourself, number one priority, with your team, with your organization, and do you know something? With your world. And I know, and they agree with me, that you will also be in good company today with them. So, ladies, welcome to the Fierce and Fabulous Society talk show. How cool to see you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You
we are
absolutely
definitely in good company with you.
Oh, how cool is that? Well, shucks, I'll take that. Got it. It is lovely to see you. And I always say that when anybody who knows me, I don't blow smoke, do you know? And when I say it, I truly do mean it. And I know that we've met each other over just this last year. And certainly for me, do you know when you meet people that you immediately feel connection to? And you get real joy out the conversation, and it's an equal platform of kind of bouncing, and it's just joyful. And you two have been two women who have given me that incredible experience. So I know I gave you quite a bit of an introduction there. But do you maybe want to just bring your voice into the room and share with everybody who each of you are, not just in that lovely big title that's describing a company, but as women? Who will we kick off with? I think we'll go with Zoe, because I always say Jo and Zoe, so she always comes second. So Zoe,
I take the lead.
you take the lead on this one. So introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So I am Zoe, obviously, one half of our company. Who am I as a woman? What a big question. I think, that is a good question. Well, I'm a mum. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a business partner. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I think, like many women, I wear many, many hats. But I think who am I as a woman is probably somebody who has managed to just fill their life with all the things that bring me joy. And I feel deeply privileged to do the work that I do in terms of training people to be coaches, supporting people to kind of overcome their own insecurities, and just to have, through coaching, created the life that I have, really. So I think that's wonderful. Is that a right summary? I don't know, but that's
hey,
kind of who I am.
That's a pretty good summary and all of that. What does that trigger for you, Jo, when you hear Zoe's description?
I think she's underselling herself.
Well, at least you know who you are. That's a good start for anything, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, she's a very special woman, and I think we inspire each other. And in terms of who I am as a woman, as Zoe said, it is a big question. I think, obviously, well, I'm a mum of two boys, and I live in the southwest in the UK, and I live in my kind of dream house, or, you know, by the coast. I like to think that I'm a warm person. I create safe spaces, you know, for people. I really enjoy connection. I enjoy sense of belonging. I enjoy having fun in my life, and adventure is really important to me. You know, feeling, and we're about to have an adventure, going off to Croatia together for an adventure. And I hope I'm creating a positive legacy in the world. That's part of my purpose, really.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that definitely comes through really strongly when I, for anybody coming on, I have a wee nosy around social media. Because as much as you know people, it's really interesting when you go back to actually read the narrative they've written about themselves. And that was really powerful. And that sense of connection with people, that sense of, there was a sense of adventure in what you do. I found myself quite engaged in the narrative that you have on your websites. And I was sharing before we came on live today that you're one of the few that when you pop up on my feed, I'll go, oh, I'll just stop, get a cup of tea and I'll listen to you. It's the two of you yattling on, not in a bad way, but in just a really organic way. Do you know, when there's no nonsense in it, it's just a really fluid, organic kind of conversation that's really rich, and you can tell it's just rich in years of experience and knowledge that's been nurtured.
Thank you. And I think it took us quite a while to find our voice and get to that place. I remember the first couple of videos. So I think I started doing video first, and Jo was working on a project, and then she came in. And at this point in time, I'd overcome like my fear of like posting stuff on LinkedIn. And then I remember us having a conversation. Jo's like, oh my God, like, this is terrifying. And then we're like, no, actually, it's fine. Like, this is part of, it's just who we are. Like, I think when you try to be something that you're not, I think that's when insecurity can come through, and those inner demons can pop up. But when you're just kind of showing up as yourself, and you can build the confidence to do that, I think that's why there can be a connection there, because what you see is who we are. We're not trying to be something else. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it has the same flavour as this, really, Mary. So, that so many times over the years we'd have had conversations, and at the end of it we'd say, oh, that was, we should have recorded that. And so really the essence of what we've tried to capture is definitely not scripted. We might have a little brief couple of minutes to say what sort of things do we want to talk about today, but it is very much what comes into our minds at the time. So hopefully it's a bit of a feeling as if people are overhearing somebody else's conversation, and then just thinking, oh, that's interesting, I might want to go and look at that. And also for us, we think the thing that has helped us to grow our business, which is all about supporting others and giving them entry into the coaching world, is visibility. And that really has been the key really to us up leveling, if you like, or developing. But as you grow the business, you grow as people as well. And also I think I'm sort of driven on by when I coach, when I'm in a coaching relationship with somebody, so with a coachee, and we're supporting them to stretch and grow in the way that they want to, and there's an integrity piece about how are we modeling that, and engaging in that energy in our own business. So it very much with coach and coachee is that that co-creation and that inspiring, and you're both changing through the relationship. And I think it's a flavour of that hopefully we also bring in the conversations.
Absolutely. I think, see, as you're talking, it's really funny, right? Because we're talking about not being too prepared. And actually, it was like up until 10 minutes before this, I thought, oh God, I need to bring myself present to what I'm about to do. And had a wee quick look. And I always trust that whatever kind of emerges in those moments, it's amazing how, because we spoke about this before we came on, I don't share with you my thoughts about the types of things I'm going to bring up. Because we both had a bit of a laugh of, oh God, what is she going to ask? But it's amazing that how often you've just actually touched on two that are written down here, just in the natural flow. It's like the energy between you is already there. And one of the really powerful things that I know I've been finding really real is about that whole visibility thing. Because I was able to say this year that I'd been coaching for 30 years. And but over that time, I've had lots of different hats, worked in corporate, been in jobs doing it. And it's and this last few years have been that step out into an online world. Now, I describe the journey of that has been in lots of ways quite traumatic, actually. It's been a coach that was in a very different environment and then having to find your voice authentically in an online space. And the pull in that. And I know from speaking to other coaches, they can really struggle with actually getting that identity out there and losing the fear, because who we can be in a room with people can be very different to what we feel comfortable about putting out onto an online world. So I totally get that, the opportunity with visibility, but also the challenge for coaches being able to get that right message across. How has that been for you?
I think for me, it's been a journey. So, I mean, that's obvious, isn't it? Like, it's a journey for all of us, but you've got to start, and then you sort of find your voice as you go. And I think there's a lot in the online world where you're just trying to like niche, you know, like, I'm going to try this message and try this message, but never really kind of put it out there and almost like road test it. And I think for me, I started probably 2-3 years ago coaching in the online world. And I started talking about confidence. That was one of the things I started to talk about. And then I sort of lost my way a bit and started talking about career transitions. And I remember somebody on LinkedIn put a post up saying, "Oh, best career coach I know, like Zoe Hawkins, you've got to speak to her if you're in." And I was like, I'm not a career coach. Like, you know, and I was like, how did I end up here? And you know, and then Joe and I sort of realized our niche is coaches, like training coaches and helping people, yes, with all of that stuff, with confidence, with career transitions, but through the lens of like discovering and leaning into their purpose and coming and training to be coaches and being able to move forward in that way. And how's it been? Like, scary and exhilarating?
Yeah, I get that.
Like, for me, I have a value around achievement, and for many years, I'm a bit of a nerd, so a bit of a high achiever from school, you know.
Yeah.
And whilst I would have people saying, "Oh gosh, you know, you must be really proud of everything you've achieved," I'd be like, "Yeah, like I kind of see it, but I didn't feel it." And it wasn't until I discovered a value of courage, and I was like, "Oh, actually, if I use courage at the same time as I'm striving to achieve, I feel it. I really connect with it."
Yeah.
And there's so much inner work you've got to do, like reframe what you think failure means, overcome your fear of judgment. And I think as a coach, you know, when you exist in this world, in the work that we do, as Joe said, you're constantly working on yourself. And it's, for me, it's both. You need to get out there doing it, but at the same time, do invest in your own inner development, because there's a lot of
Totally
stuff that goes untested in this online world, which you only discover when you're trying to step out and use your voice. So it's been a meandering.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I think there's that thing of when you are entrepreneurial, and when you're putting yourself out to learn constantly and do that internal work and constant development, your identity is shifting the entire time. And then people want certainty. They'll say, "What are you?" And you go, "Well, actually," and it's all these titles for coaches, you know. So I'm laughing as you're saying, you know, when did I become a career coach? Do you know, I could say I've been a high performance coach, I've been called a transformation coach, I've been an executive coach, I've been a life coach. Is any of them wrong? Well, no, because over that long period of time, it's just been that evolution. And it's what does the name actually mean? Because it's maybe touching us on now to another really pertinent thing, certainly that I hold, and that is that whole thing about because you're in the teaching space, you're in the qualification space, you're in the regulation space, and yet coaching is booming. There are more coaches and accessibility to coaching than there has ever been, but the regulation of it it doesn't match up. So what are your thoughts on all of that? Now, that's a big question.
Well, we've chosen for our coach training courses to be a qualification. So not only a certification, but also to be on the National Qualifications Framework.
Yeah.
And we also have chosen to have the ICF, the International Coach Federation, and also the EMCC, the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, to look at our qualifications, to look at the content, to check that they meet their criteria. And we've done that to help the coaches that come and train through us so that they can go out into the world and know that they've got a coaching qualification and it's recognised by the coaching bodies. But when people train as coaches, they need to look for an accredited training provider. But then the accreditation as a coach is the thing that you do after you've got your qualification. And I think there's a lot of confusion about those two different steps, naturally, because when you're on the outside looking in, it is confusing.
Totally.
I have kind of both sides, I suppose, when you look at regulations. So I think on the one hand, as Joe's described, like all of those things really help our business and help people to buy confidently. And actually we attract an audience. Like I shared, I'm a nerd. To be honest, a lot of the people that end up working for us, they're high achievers, they like qualifications, and and so they're drawn to the learning side of it. But at the same time, because we have kind of regulated and accredited qualifications, we also know that it can be limiting. So our program goes above and beyond the curriculum to make sure that it's modern and it's fresh, and we're bringing stuff that isn't asked for, but because we're passionate about it and we know that it's important. So regulation can also stifle a little bit, like stifle innovation. And as we look to the future, we will probably bring out our own kind of CPD, like trainings and things like that. That yes, we might accredit, but will be kind of our own sort of certifications. And I think when it comes to training to be a coach, and I think there's can you sort of set yourself up as a coach and just start working as a coach? I think there's some hugely talented people that are coaches that don't have the training that we do. But then there's also the other end. And I think that is tricky, because it does make the buyer confused, I think, about what they are buying. So yeah, two sides to the regulation coin, really.
Because it's, I mean, I know for me, so two of the most powerful coaches I have ever worked with, for me, didn't have any qualifications. But they actually had histories of engaging in human conversation. You know, they had different backgrounds and they had rich dialogue skills. And they were very impactful, really impactful. But at the same time, there are ones actually who have had a list of qualifications, have ticked all the boxes, and weren't so great. And it is that, I think, being able to trust your own, knowing that someone has had some kind of academic or grounding in qualification, accreditation, is a good foundation, but then still having to connect in with, does this person feel right for me? Because it's that relationship part, isn't it, that is the fundamental. It doesn't matter how qualified you are, if you've not got that connection with that other human being, then your ability, because you're having to go so deep in that coaching role, is always a barrier.
I think you also need different things at different times on your journey.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I've definitely needed a coach, someone who can coach in the way that I coach, which I find hard to find.
Yes, totally.
And then there's been other times on my journey where I probably needed a mentor who can just like say, stop doing that, start doing this, focus here, tighten up there. And for those who are thinking of investing in themselves, I think really understand what your needs are and spend some time following the person who you're, who's on your radar, and just seeing if you align to their values and their message and their approach. I think that's always a good place to start. I know that's what I do. I sort of follow coaches and stuff and see, do I resonate? Would I like to invest?
I think that's really relevant. Yeah, totally. Because I know that if I look over it, I've had a mixture of coaches and mentors. And some of the mentors have been very specific for specific strategies for a certain amount of time to get to a certain place. And I mean, I've actually had the experience of being in a moment of, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm 50 and doing this, and I'm about to melt down. And I've had the benefit of being able to have Joe pick up the phone and go, right, where are we? And having the depth and the richness of that, because trying to get someone who can hold that space with you when you're a coach yourself, and you know when it's getting done well, is so difficult to find. But see, when it happens, impactful stuff. And it was completely 1.5 hours of impact. Quite transformational. And I ended up disappearing off on holiday on my own, going skinny dipping because of her. Do you know?
I need to book myself in for a session.
Did I ask you for that testimonial, Mary?
Listen, I'll say what I see. Do you know, because that was an impactful coaching call. It truly was, that I was able to take action on. I could have been hanging about for ages on. But it is really something when you can get that sense as another coach and have the impact as another coach. Because I've been in places where my wee voice at the back's going, oh dear, do you know?
Yeah.
I find it with supervision. So, you know, the idea that you book in your supervision sessions in advance, they're never when I actually need them. Like when I need it is when I've come off a coaching call and there's something about it that I feel like I want to explore and, you know, look at myself in relation to it. And I love the thought that it would be on tap. And our conversation was just a spontaneous conversation. Was it? We both just happened to be available or made ourselves available at that time. And there's chemistry involved. And actually, that's the heart of, you know, a great relationship, whether it's a coaching relationship or a loving relationship, whatever relationship in your life. And I've actually convinced somebody to coach me before that wasn't really a coach. And she said, you know, I don't really coach people, but I do work with, you know, a few women each year. And I just really felt this chemistry. And I don't feel that very often with very many people. I felt it with Zoe when we first met, when she first walked into the room. And so when I experienced that, I know there's something there for me. And I don't really mind what the label is. It doesn't need to be labeled for me. It's just it's precious time.
Yeah. And I think that chemistry word really describes it beautifully. Really describes it beautifully. But you touched on there another thing. It's amazing how it's like little, what do you call them? Stepping stones in the water, isn't it? That we stand at the beginning of a conversation at the side of the river going, right, how are we going to get from here to there? And we just hold it open and trust that it will emerge along the way. And up pops another stepping stone. And the stepping stone for me this time has the word coaching supervision on it. And I know as a coach that, and it's something that people often don't consider, is actually it can be really hard work holding that emergent space, serving people powerfully day in, day out, having to hold yourself back and be true to yourself at the same time. That is complex stuff. So share with us, because I know that you both offer in your company coaching supervision, and describe how that differs from coaching itself.
I've resisted coaching supervision for years. One, we hate the term coaching supervision.
Yeah.
Like it just, for years, I just thought, oh, that's Big Brother.
Yeah.
Like analyzing my work, like what did I do well and what could I do better? And I was like, I don't want any of that. And then I trained to be a supervisor, and they described it as having supervision, like supervision around what's going on between you and your client, and what's going on inside of you, and what's going on, you know, between all the spaces, all in between. So supervision when it comes to coaches, and then we might want to talk about executive supervision, but it's just about, the first thing I ask in a supervision session is just, so how are you arriving? You know, and the best session I ever had with my coaching supervisor, which might kind of is I arrived and I was like, I know I've had this session booked for ages, and I've been trying to think of like what I want to bring, and I just don't know. And you know, and maybe this isn't the right time to have supervision. Maybe I should book it for next week. But I don't know what to bring. Everything's really busy right now. And she just went, should we start there? And I was like, yeah, let's start there. And then we just had this very emergent session where I had quite profound realizations around what was going on for me, what was happening in my work, some things that I needed. And supervision is, I think the main difference is it's not goal led.
Yeah.
So I think in coaching, it's like, right, I'm here, or client's here, client wants to be there. Okay, let me facilitate the journey so the client can get there. And in supervision, it's like, right, where are we starting from? Here. And your supervisor's like, okay, let's start here.
Yeah.
It's like, so where should we go next? And you just sort of like wander there together, and it is holding space.
Yeah.
And that might sound just really weird to people who aren't coaches
Yeah.
or who don't work in the same way. It's just a very, it's almost like it's an energetic process rather than necessarily a full kind of conversations, tools, techniques, all that you throw into coaching. It's more happens like by osmosis, I suppose.
Yeah.
What would you build on, Jo?
For me, well, as you said, I just don't like the label supervision. For me, it's more like carriage hour, fireside chat kind of a vibe. And I think it's a lot like when people say, what's the difference between coaching, mentoring, counseling, consulting? There aren't hard and fast barriers or lines between those things. So for me, the difference between coaching and supervision, I'm still exploring as a coach and as a supervisor. And I think my coaching style, because of the depth of it, has a similar energy to what Zoe was describing in terms of supervision. But again, for me, it's about focusing on the relationship rather than the label of what it is and what that person needs. I think that the lens, there's that systemic lens in supervision, so being in service, you've got the coach, so you are in service of the coach, but you are also in service of the coachees that the coach is working with. And you're aware of the systems that they're part of and the dynamics that occur between them. So, there are some obvious differences there. But having said that, in my coaching work, I am also aware of the systems that my clients are part of. Do I think it is a valuable space? Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of new coaches, because coaching training is quite expensive, it often starts off as a side hustle. Often by the time they get to the end of the coaching training, when they haven't got clients and bringing money in from that, the thought of spending money on supervision when they also don't have clients just seems strange, or they don't. And so then they get their coaching clients, but they haven't got into the rhythm of that. Part of being a coach is having a supervisor to support you, to support your clients. And so that's often, I think, why it takes a while to get into the rhythm of it. A bit like how long it takes people to decide that they are going to actually invest in coaching. They've known they need it for a while or would benefit from it. So for most people, they don't just make a quick decision and say, I'm going to get myself a coach.
No.
Some do, but so it's an important part of being an ethical coach, I think, would be.
And that, I think what you've touched on there around your view to investment in self is huge for all of us, and huge for anybody, certainly, as I do a lot of business coaching. And it's funny because people's perception of business coaching is that I'm going to be very transactional. It is like 80% not about the transactional elements of business, but it's about the leadership and the individual and everything that goes around with that. But I know from my own journey, I always tell the story of being in a corporate public service world. And I remember I wanted to do a course. Now, I was getting paid. They were paying to do lots of courses. I'm forever grateful for that. But I wanted to do this one, and it was £3,000. Now, £3,000 is a ton of money. And I didn't get to do it. And each year when the review came up, I still didn't get to do it. And I was raging that this was going to be transformational. I put in a great pitch for it. It was going to transform my life. It's going to be so beneficial to them, and they weren't paying. And now, actually, years on, I look back and I just laugh because I think, I knew it would be so impactful for me. It was about my own development, but I handed over the control of that with expectation to someone else to pay for it. And that was where my head was at that time. And would I have at that time paid for my own supervision? Never. That was an expectation that someone else had to do that for me. Whereas now it's a whole different ballgame. And when I see people who have made that personal development mindset shift, it then leads into the decisions they then can make for their businesses, which as you grow just get bigger and different. And you need to be able to keep continually breathing in as you take a step forward into yet another investment. And they just get bigger with it. So totally get what you're saying on it all. And what's sparking in me actually is another thing, because I read on it, I don't know where I've read it because I have been nosing about on you, but I read people before profit is something that is written in your narrative online. And it made me think when I read it about the space that we're currently working in, because what I hear another term online a lot of is high paying client, especially within a coaching world. You know, how I need to get a high paying client. And I know that I've been in communities where there is this expectation that all coaches should be able to get high paying clients like that and right away. And I don't know, when I just read your people before profit, with the world that we're in is so driving towards, you have to be get high paying clients to be validated and credible. And I've seen what that concept does to really good coaches. Do you know, as they're comparing themselves to others and they're not getting there. What's your thoughts on all of that?
I think that is a one-step shop to igniting your imposter and crippling you in business growth.
Totally.
You know, linking to what you also just said around investing in yourself. So if you're in a position in business where, let's say, you're only willing to invest, like, I might invest £1,000, but would I pay £15,000 for a coach? Then no, I'll invest the £1,000, and then you might decide, okay, I know how to attract the high paying clients. I'm going to put my fees up to like £10,000 a client, and I'm going for it. But if you can't invest that in yourself, you're not going to attract those clients in you. I think there's the whole how do I price my services conversation. I think is a really big conversation for coaches. And I don't think there's anything that says this is how you should price yourself. It's very much an internal journey. And we've been on a journey with pricing. I think for years we were undervaluing ourselves, in terms of what we could deliver. But that's a journey we had to go on.
Yeah.
And now when we work with one-to-one clients, we attract those clients who are so ready, so in, and they might be teetering on this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money. But something happens when they choose to invest. Like, they've already decided they're getting the change that they want to create.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, half the work is done, because by buying the service, they're all in, and then we get to kind of help them on the rest of the journey. But that's not to say that somebody paying £100 for coaching isn't ready for their first level. And for me and Joe, coaching has always been about, this isn't about giving it to a certain part of the audience. Coaching is for everybody, and therefore there is a coach for everybody. And the coaches out there who are starting out charging £50 a session, well, good, because there's people out there who are only ready to invest £50 a session, and they're at their level of growth. And that's brilliant that there are coaches who can serve that audience and serve them really well and deliver great coaching. And as they nurture their inner world and they nurture their skills and they learn about their audience, they can grow into different spaces. And I'm not saying people can't like jump into the high paying client thing, but I think there's a huge amount of inner work that needs to be done if you're going to do that and be successful at it. It's not just a sales and marketing strategy. It's a personal development strategy too.
And it can be so easy that there's this, as I say, this drive online, and it's this push that if you do this course, we'll teach you how to do that. But when I see groups of coaches coming together into spaces that are giving that message, it's like comparing apples and bananas. We're all coaches, we're all bits of fruit, but we're all at different spaces. And have I been at a space in those years where I've not even charged? Do you know, I didn't even charge at one point. I got some nice vouchers, for meals out and stuff as a thank you, but I didn't charge. I've charged £50, I've charged 75. And as I grew and gained experience and actually gained a deeper value of self, because it's once that value of self was there and I could see the impact that coaching was having, only then could I truly value in a different way. I expect the other people to value me back in that same way.
And themselves.
Without a doubt.
There's two key parts to it for me. It's like when people talk about money, I'm like, where's the heart? Where's the alignment in this? So the other word for me is around mutuality. What's the mutuality here? Because when we talk about, the impact, the potential impact that the coaching can have for the coachee, if they knew at the beginning that they were guaranteed the outcome, what would they be prepared to invest then? Well, a lot of people would invest a lot more than actually the investment that they make in the coaching in the first place. But for me, it is that people first. So it's not, Zoe and I are not driven by money. We're driven by actually just the love of what we do and the impact that it can have in the world. And so, yes, it's good to be recognized financially for that, but it's also good to be recognized in other ways. So I think where it becomes icky is when the coach is led by the money, that the business growth is led by wanting to hit a certain figure for the sake of it being a number. That's where ego comes in, and I don't think ego has a place in a coaching relationship.
And yet it's so difficult, because when you are a coach and you've got a house to run, you've got food to put on your table, you've got this business you're trying to now deliver, you're not getting the clients in, to detach yourself from the outcome of the sale is a really tough journey of learning to go on. And I know that when I look back on those years, there were definitely times when I was attached to the sale. I wasn't consciously doing it, but it was definitely there. Whereas it's been a journey, an experiential journey, to be able to get to a place where actually who comes in my room is highly protected. And I would only offer services to people who I think are actually going to be able to get the impact from coaching because they're in the right space for it and there is that chemistry and connection. And that has meant that I have said no to way more people wanting to come in than I actually allowed in. And it was the right thing to happen. And sometimes people, by leaning in that way, it places that you challenge them back to have deeper learning about themselves. And then 3 months later, because of that conversation, they come back and say, can we have another chat? And that's what the real service is, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I've heard again in online space, detach yourself from the sale. That is simple to say, not so easy to implement, because it's a whole load of inner work that needs to be done to actually do it. So get that, totally. So, ladies, I know that you two have a whole range of things that you do within your company. You've got your ILM coaching training, you've got your coaching evolution, you've got the business lounge, you've got the coaching crowd, which is your group. Tell us a wee bit more about each of them and where people can actually find you.
All right. So the first place is our free group. So the Coaching Crowd, that's a group we created, I think it was back in 2018. We sat back and we're like, oh, everyone's kind of creating Facebook groups. You think that's something we should do? And then we're like, oh, not really. Like, let's just create a group that we want to be a part of. And so we're like, well, we love coaches. Let's just create a group of coaches. There was no real strategy attached to it at the time. And we love that group now. Like, it's a group of coaches and aspiring coaches and leaders who are interested in coaching and HR professionals. And there's about 1,500 people in that group now. So it's a great place for learning and growth. And that's where we share our weekly kind of coaching tools and resources. So that would be the first place. And from there, anybody who, you know, feels that the timing is right for them to invest in some coaching training, we've got those courses at all different levels, from beginners to intermediate and advanced. So you can come and find one of our coaching courses, and there's some information on our website there. And the program we have at the moment is our certification in transformational coaching, which is for qualified coaches. And this is really for people. So in this Facebook group where we're hanging out, people come in who are in training. They're like, oh my God, I wish I'd discovered you two first. I so would have loved to have done my training with you. Like, you always go above and beyond everything you've got to share. Love your energy, blah, blah. And we're like, well, maybe we should create a course for coaches then, like you haven't trained with us. And so we've extracted the best bits of our coaching training and put together a package really to help coaches deepen their experience around transformational coaching. And the style that we've been talking about today, that you use, Mary, and that we use to kind of really deepen the insights that those clients can have. We've developed a program for coaches on that. And what have I missed, Jo? Because I'm sure there's a couple more.
Well, so firstly, I would say if you're thinking about training to be a coach and you're not sure what level would be right for me, we have got I don't like to call it a quiz, like a quiz anyway. And you can find that at mycoachingcourse.com. Let you know what would be a good level for you.
Wow.
Yeah. And we also have a shop that we're developing. So people want to engage in bite-sized chunks coach training, keep watching, because that will happen. We are launching our podcast called The Coaching Crowd, which will launch on the 15th of November. And we have a book coming out next year. But also in the short term, you need to join Mary's summit. That sounds amazing, Mary.
Totally. And do you know something? Isn't this the best thing? Because people often will say, oh, I'm not having any other coaches. Do you know, I don't have any other coaches in my space. I absolutely love it. See, when you get people in your business sphere that you are connected to, oh my goodness. I think the conversation we had before we came on was, oh, I've got somebody that really needs to see you. Do you know?
Yeah.
And it's lovely to just be able to support one another on your business journey and to be able to really allow the synergies to flourish and to embrace the differences between us.
Yeah.
And that's a really joyful part in it. So absolutely. I'm telling you, if you've got a spare couple of minutes, cup of tea, get onto their website, look at their videos. They're brilliant, because I'm always listening as I'm making a cup of tea and taking, and it's actually a gift to myself. And the amount of times I have sat there thinking, wish I'd thought to say that.
Well, part of the reason
next time we're recording the Mary, we'll have a vision of you sat on your sofa with your cup of tea, like listening into our chat. We might even say hi.
Part of the reason we love being coaches, because we like the community of coaches that we're part of, because it is such a supportive community, we find, and that is part of the joy of being in that world. So if you find yourself in a corporate organization feeling like everybody thinks you're oversensitive because you care about people, or you're focused on relationships, and you're thinking, God, I'd love to be full-time where I don't have to feel guilty for the fact that actually I really, care and understand actually, the value that has, then I would say take a look at coaching and come and join us all in this wonderful world.
It definitely is, isn't it? And we get to be in places like this where we get to sit and chew fat, share, appreciate our lives and hopefully impact some of the thoughts and actions of others as a result of it. So Jo and Zoe, it has been a real pleasure, as it is always, to have you here on the Fierce and Fabulous Society talk show. I have no idea why I started saying it like that.
Works.
Works, yeah. Don't diss
Do you
it.
like it? Do you? And it will be a
You need to work
pleasure.
on your fierce. You've got the fabulous down, but I want to hear more fierce.
Oh, do you want to? I'm going to have
Yeah,
to
let's do it.
practice it then. And I'll tell you, even that whole thing has been a journey. All people have to do is scroll back on my social media and you'll see the brand shifts that I've made. And there's one I say I look like Boris Johnson's PA, right?
Did you never purr in the boardroom? Did you not do that?
What was that? I always think my pictures back then looked like I should be on the side of a conservative political bus. As I was making that transition from working as an executive coach, do you know, because that's what the environment was demanding of me in corporate. I'm an executive coach. That's the only way I had to be serious and get my suit on. That's not the woman I am. And actually, now that connecting with that, I'm a much more impactful executive coach than I ever was when I was there. But it takes a lot of bravery to get out and be fierce and fabulous. So it'll be wonderful to have you in the Fierce and Fabulous Society Women in Business Growth Summit. And if you come on, remember the 4th of November, you'll be able to share my birthday as well on that day.
Wow.
Hey, I get to turn 51 on the summit.
Nice.
How cool is that? So both of you, thank you so much for a joyful 51 minutes, 44 seconds in this week. And everybody, remember, we are here every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. for the Fierce and Fabulous Society talk show. And you can go over and join the Fierce and Fabulous Society on Facebook. And we will always be delighted to see you. And we'll see you back here next week for another episode. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. Bye.